welcome to Inside the Mind of, a podcast where I like to dive deeper into the minds of some of my favorite people and people who inspire me in the wrestling community. I am your hostess with the mostest, Katie Kinsey, baby.
Baby.
Thank you. Joined with me is the co-host, I guess we can call you, of the number one wrestling podcast on Pornhub, Smacking It Raw, the host of Straight Talk. He is known as Pornhub Poppy, SES Vince, Daddy Delgado. Of course, I'm talking about Vince Delgado. How you doing?
Hey, Katie. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm doing well.
Oh no, thank you for being on.
I'm excited. I'm honored to be here. I can't wait to chat with you for a little bit and just get inside the mind of this guy right here.
And this fucking
This guy
guy,
right.
look at him. So, people might not know that we used to work together on
Yeah.
Smackdraw.
Yeah.
You were basically on your way out as I was on my way in.
Yeah. We were like the AJ Styles and Finn Balor of the Bullet Club. Finn Balor leaving, AJ Styles coming in. Like I kind of like helped steer the ship when it was first starting off, just like Finn Balor. And then just like AJ Styles, you took things to the next level and just propelled that show off.
Stop. Stop. Compliments get you nowhere, Vince.
Really? I feel like they do. We'll see how this interview goes. See where these compliments get me.
We'll see. I mean, who
All
knows?
right.
But yeah, so we got to do a few shows together, and then you joined Smacking It Raw. I got to
Mm-hmm.
work with you, obviously, on that. We just did the mock draft where you won somehow.
The people spoke, Katie.
The people
The
spoke
people spoke.
wrong because if they would have seen the first draft we did, Matt and I smoked you.
There's no proof of that, and there's no proof that you smoked me whatsoever. I'd like to believe that we were equally all had very good rosters. The only thing you managed to smoke me on is claiming all my Latinos that I wanted to claim. I think I got like a handful, but you got the majority of all my Latino wrestlers that I wanted.
I did, and that was my pride and joy.
You also stole Sheamus from me this year, so there's that too.
Yeah, which is why your Sheamus gimmick is dead.
R.I.P. If it
R.I.P.
makes you feel any better, R.I.P. If it makes you feel any better, I took it off from my Twitter bio, so that's already updated.
Did you really?
I updated it as soon as I lost the. As soon as I finished doing the recording for the show, I'm like, well, gimmicks dead. Maybe I should get rid of it from my bio. So I got rid of it from my bio, and then on the latest episode of Smacking Raw, um, after the draft is when I went ahead and just like conceded to like relinquishing the gimmick, which it was fun. It was fun while it lasted, but I'd be lying to you if it wasn't a little heavy on the workload to try to keep it up. It was a lot. It
You
was a
became
lot.
a monster.
Well, yeah, because like I started off just like all I did, and you can blame TC and Young Kings Wrestling for that. All I did was like Sheamus is mid at best. That was not me taking shots at Sheamus, not saying he wasn't good. I'm just saying he's a mid-tier wrestler that a couple years from now it's like, oh yeah, remember Sheamus? Oh yeah, Sheamus was fun. Sheamus was a cool wrestler back then, but he's not like a Shawn Michaels, or he's not like AJ Styles, or like a John Cena. He's not on that tier. He's on a mid tier. And that's all I meant. And they just kind of took offense to it. Eventually, the pendulum swung in the other direction. I did a bet if he won the US title at WrestleMania. I owned up to my bet. I'm a man of my word. I did what I was supposed to. And hey, if you're gonna do something, you gotta do it right. I said I was gonna be a super stan. I lived up to the super stan gimmick.
This man out here trying to say Sheamus is the best master wrestler of all time.
He
Saying he's better
was.
than Hoven, dude? Disrespectful. You're never living any of that down, by the way.
To be fair, I didn't even have Hoovy on that list of greatest mass wrestlers. I said he was better than El Santo. I was saying he was better than Min Mascaras, La Parca, Rey Mysterio, Yushin Thunder Liger. Those are all the names I mentioned
The
that were.
blasphemy.
But it made for good content because you could tell Matt was just like, I'm sick of this shit already.
Oh my god. I think you guys had an episode with Reek on, and I think that was when you first started. That was when the Hoovy slander started. It was that
Yes.
episode because seeing their reactions, because I'm like a visual person, you know this, so I watch the videos,
Right. Right. Yeah.
and just seeing their reactions was priceless.
It's hilarious. Oh man, don't get me started on Young Teens Wrestling. I love their reactions, especially Reek. Like I watched the latest episode where he just like stormed off camera just because of of Tony D'Angelo. Which by the way, I'm with Reek, but Tony D'Angelo.
Listen, I
I
got
do
to
not.
that part in the podcast show, so this when this goes up, that'll be like in the
A
past.
month though. Yeah, it'd be like a few weeks old. I would say.
Yeah, because this goes up. Let me look at my handy dandy calendar here.
Handy dandy calendar.
Yeah, handy dandy notebook. Shout out. November
Shout out.
15th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right before we get into like the Thanksgiving like holiday week.
Yeah.
So perfect timing. Perfect timing.
Yeah. I do. I release them every 2 weeks. I got it situated. So by the time yours comes out, Reek, Matt, Justin, and TC's will all be out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And boy, if y'all made it through TC's, that shit is 2 hours long. Hell of a conversation.
See you guys.
But God, it took a lot out of me. I also had a migraine shooting it, and then I had to do smacking around later that night. Like I had an hour break. I literally just laid here, my eyes closed. I was like, please go away. I didn't move. It was terrible. Terrible.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear that, Kitty. But hey, you made it through. You got the episode done, and I'll listen to it. You know, like I might take a few drinks. Let me get like 2 or 3 Jack and Cokes in me, and I'll sit through the whole 2 hours.
No, you with 1 or 2 or 2 or 3 Jack and Cokes, you're something else on a podcast.
Which is why I chose not to drink for this interview, because I felt like loose Vince is not the best Vince for this type of podcast. We need
authentic Vince.
Well, I'm pretty authentic when I'm loose.
No, but... you're just way too out of pocket.
I don't know. I guess we'd have to see. We might have to compare like out of pocket Vince versus out of pocket TC. Who's really most out of pocket?
Oh no.
TC might have me beat. TC might have me beat.
He's talking about conspiracies and dinosaurs. It took a turn.
Oh my gosh! Sounds like Del Gribble from King of the Hill.
I was just sitting here, shook a lot. If you
was he drinking?
No, he wasn't.
Oh my god!
If you watch, like if I do this and my eyes get big, it's because someone says some out of pocket ass shit or something catches me off guard. Like when Reek said he was gonna be a rapper, or I don't want to say Justin's because the episode isn't out yet. It'll be out
just
tomorrow.
We can just say it. Fantastic.
So you can watch it. You can watch it in the morning, Vince.
I'm looking forward to it.
But speaking of that, are you ready to answer some questions?
Yes.
Now,
I am ready.
If there's anything you don't want to answer, you do not have to. You basically just tell me to fuck off, and we don't have to talk about it.
Sounds good. Sounds perfect. I'm a pretty open book. We'll get through some things.
That's why we're here. We're here to get inside your mind.
Let's do it.
So, I kind of talked about how we worked together on Smackdraw, but how did you get your start in podcasting?
Funny enough, I don't. It was just like a random tweet by Sebastian. I want to say this was during. Maybe like a few weeks right before All In happened, and it was just a random tweet. I think I was just doing like random follow trains, like follow for follows on Twitter, and it just happened to be Sebastian who was working on Smackdraw at the time. And they needed a co-host. They needed someone to help record shows because NXT was going to be 2 hours and AEW was coming. So they needed more manpower. And I've always wanted to do commentary on like either wrestling or basketball or anything of my interest. And podcasting was something that I wanted to invest in, but I had no avenue for it. I had no connections. And then I like fish out of water. I had no clue on how to even get started. I saw that tweet and I shot my shot. I was talking to Sebastian through the show's Twitter, then talked to Kyle, who runs the show, and like one thing led to another, and I was hired. And funny enough, around the same time Kevin got hired, so me and him both got hired at the same time, and we we were supposed to do the All In pay-per-view recap,
Mm.
but I was actually at All In, so I couldn't do it. So it was just like a random like news episode that I did it. But yeah, it was literally by chance. I was on Twitter and I saw Sebastian, who was working with the show at the time, saying they needed people to work. And I just kind of like shot my shot, submitted my resume, said I had done YouTube before that. I dabbled with YouTube, and I used to like edit like some stuff on my PS4, and I have my laptop, so
Mm.
like I could probably do some stuff. I don't have any experience, but if you teach me, I'd be more than willing to learn.
Yeah. And so, how did you go from being on Smackdraw to having Straight Talk?
And it's more or less the same thing. It was just like continuously doing it and just kind of getting some reps in. And I love basketball just as much as I love pro wrestling. And at that point in time, I was getting a little burnt out with wrestling just because there was a lot.
A lot.
It felt like a job, and some like you can attest to this. And most people that do podcasting in general, like whatever you're covering, like if you don't love it and it just feels like a chore, the content's not there. So I wanted to express my creativity in another avenue and just like not feel like I have to do like a recap or like have like a certain routine. I just want to expand my resume, you
Yeah.
know? So I decided I now have the tools. I know how to start up a podcast. I know how to run it, knowing that I had been doing Smackdraw for over a year, being like one of the main producers on the show. I decided why not do my own show? I can be my own boss. I can talk about basketball. I can talk about wrestling if I want to. I can talk about anime, anything. I did a whole Pokemon podcast, like wrestlers as Pokemon gym leaders with Matt, just because it was a fun idea. And that's really all it was, is kind of have that passion and that freedom to do what I wanted to do with YouTube when I started, but in a less like less step type of way. Like I didn't have to worry about video. All I had to do was just do audio, and it was perfect. It
Mm-hmm.
was the perfect avenue to just kind of like let my creativity and just like my freedom and just have some fun. That's what Straight Talk is. That's never gonna be something that I want to be like a job
Mm-hmm.
or like a business. It's just something that I'm doing just for fun and just to get good content out there. If something comes of Straight Talk, that's fantastic, but that's not my goal. My goal is just to have fun talking about whatever I want to talk about on that show.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on Straight Talk, I guess, right?
Technically two times, but like the first time we recorded the draft last year. Unfortunately, I'm not the most tech savvy guy, which I lost the audio. Shouldn't be fucking with Mac because they're not the best like working with OBS, but we got the draft the second year.
Yes.
Fantastic. One of the most fun shows I've had the pleasure of doing in a very long time. And that's literally was the whole goal with Straight Talk. It's like I still want to do wrestling recaps with Smackdraw, but I want to have all these like fun, like creative ideas and not, like not just like do the one thing, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I get it,
That
100%.
and that's exactly what it was. That's what happened with Straight Talk. And it was never me just trying to do my own thing. It was just like, hey, like let's talk basketball. Let's talk Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's talk Pokemon. Let's talk Digimon. Let's talk Harry Potter. Let's talk Larner SVU. Let's talk whatever we want to talk about. Free open forum.
Hell yeah. There we go. I love that. Now, you said that us doing the mock draft recently was like an episode you loved to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, you've been on Smack Raw, you have Straight Talk, and you're on Smacking It Raw. Out of
Yes.
those three, do you have any favorite episodes that come to mind off the top of your head?
Favorite episodes. That's a tough one because I'm my own worst critic. So I'm very hard on myself. So 9 times out of 10, my favorite shows on Smackdraw or Smacking Raw are shows that I'm not a part of, or I'm very limited in my role. But in terms of stuff that I'm very fond of, is back in my Smackdraw days, I helped create the March Madness tournament, where it's just like in the NCAA tournament with basketball, but we did that with pro wrestlers, both women and men. It was intergender, and we
Okay.
had 4 different brackets. It was Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and AEW, and then culminated with like a Final Four, which was hosted by Kyle. I was one of the competitors with Matt, and I believe it was either Benji that was on that. I can't recall who was on the March Madness. I'm so sorry, but it was such a fun show. I think it might have been Steven from Wrestling News World, perhaps.
Okay.
I have to go back and watch it. And it was so fun. We literally just went through the tournament back to back. And then also speaking of Matt, the second or third episode of UWO with Smackdraw, where it was the Chicago edition with me, Benji, and Matt Ritter, which created the whole slogan of gangbang all day, which slowly turned into Daddy Delgado and Pornhub Poppy.
Yep.
And if it wasn't for gangbang all day, I might not be recording on Pornhub every week, being the number one wrestling podcast co-host on there. So it was a fun time for sure. In terms of Smacking Raw, obviously just being part of the 200th episode was a load of fun. And I guess recently, Clusterfuck 2.0 with you, me, Benji. I missed Justin, but that was such a fun show. And I think can't remember what episode it was, but it was the one where we had Matt took off, and it was Drunk Travis, and it was TC's debut on the show, and I was on there, and they were singing television sitcom theme songs while I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? He was muting people left and right. It started a whole beef between TC and Travis because he disrespected Bret Hart. And then at a certain point after the fact, TC felt some type of way because he had male genitalia around him on Pornhub because of the tagging that was either intentionally or unintentionally placed on that video. So there's a lot of fun stuff on there. In terms of Straight Talk, I don't think I have a favorite. Maybe the draft is my favorite right now, but it's all a different episode. Every episode's a different vibe because I've had Justin talk about basketball, and then the Pokemon podcast with Matt, and then I've done stuff with RN and Wreak Havoc, talking basketball and wrestling, and then I don't know. It's hard to kind of like just choose something from Straight Talk, but Smacking It Raw, obviously that one episode with Travis, 200th episode, Clusterfuck 2.0, and then UWO Chicago edition was one of my favorite episodes to be part of.
I mean, UWO Chicago is probably one of the best, if not the best, UWO there is. I've watched that one like twice all the way through, like no joke.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty fun because that's kind of how like the whole like Vince hates D'Lo Brown shit started too, because
oh my god, yeah,
that's where it started. So like there's been so many things from that one episode that just carried over to like stuff that's still being said today, like all the inside jokes we have in the cafeteria, you know. Shout out to the cafeteria. Shout out. But yeah, I would say those are my favorite episodes that I look back on fondly.
So I can't even take a guess on how many episodes you have done of all three podcasts combined.
Jeez.
You have your favorites, but every episode or most episodes have unexpected moments. So whether that's something that has made you bust out laughing, be like, yo, what the fuck? Or anything like that. Just any unexpected moments you can think of that, and on any of the three shows you've been a part of.
Any of the three shows? Oh my god, that's kind of hard to just kind of like sit back and like think of what's happened. There's an incident out there that isn't recorded for a reason that just kind of like took me back, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But I don't think I want to share that one.
Yeah, you don't have to.
No, I don't.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yes, I think we both know that. I think some people that know me know what episode I'm talking about.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Honestly, I think I have to circle back to that episode I did with Travis and TC, because I'm literally just like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, Travis is like losing control. Like, he's not even trying to regain control. He's letting this shit spiral everywhere. It was fucking hilarious. I was muted at a certain point and I just like leaned into it. It was fucking fantastic. Um, I don't know. I think for me, usually I'm the one saying something what the fuck and seeing everybody's reaction towards
Blasphemous?
it
Yeah.
being blasphemous. I'm gonna go ahead and say the episode we did with Justin, that Justin Jalen on the beat at Heel Tactics underscore on Twitter, and JJ. That was hilarious because uh, Matt would mute me because of my blasphemous Seamus comments. So I decided I'm gonna change my name to pop everyone and say and call myself Seamus's face mask. And
Terrible.
then my profile picture would be Seamus with his face mask. So whenever I got muted, I would just go ahead and just put the picture of Seamus. So like that'd be hilarious. That was just fucking hilarious. And I again like me saying shit about Hobie, just saying shit about Hobie and
Terrible.
pissing. I stand by that. I'm sorry. He's like the third best member of the Mexicals. He still is. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Look, and I try to explain myself. I try to explain myself when we did Smacking Around is not necessarily that I think he's a worse wrestler than both Super Crazy and Psychosis. It's just like if you look at what they did within the confines of that faction, Hoovy, yes, he won the cruiserweight title, but he kind of was in WWE for a cup of tea and was out of there. And then Super Crazy and Psychosis, they had a little bit of runs. Super Crazy has the most longevity. So I think the tier ranking would be Super Crazy, Psychosis, and then Juventud. But that's just me.
Matt and Rick are
That's
gonna be
just me.
so pissed when they listen to this.
That's okay. They're already getting mad at me about like the littlest things. Rick is looking at me some type of way because I called Brock Big Booty Brock this past episode of Smack and Raw. And I've been calling him that for like 2-3 weeks now.
See, that was
So
the first time I heard it too.
really?
Yeah,
I think I sneaked it in with Travis and he just didn't acknowledge it. I
probably.
think he might have no sold it, which led to everyone else no selling it.
That's fair.
But yeah.
Tends to happen.
Yeah.
You really brought that Juventud slander on this show. How dare you? But
It happens.
that's not my place. This is your mind, Vince. I'm just here to guide the people through it.
So yeah.
So,
But
oh, go ahead.
no. I thought you were gonna like ask something else, and so no, you go, Katie. You go, Katie. You're guiding us. You're guiding us.
I'm guiding this. You kind of touched on it. You brought up Pokemon, Digimon, basketball, all of this.
Yeah.
What other hobbies do you have? Because I know you work a lot.
Yeah, I do.
So when you're not working and you're not doing Smacking It Raw or Straight Talk, I guess more so Smacking It Raw. What do you like to do?
Uh, for the most part, like younger, when I was a little bit younger, making it seem like I'm old. I'm only like 29, but still, it feels like I'm ancient now. But I always love to play basketball. Like it's one of my favorite sports. And sometimes like I needed like an avenue to just like de-stress and like decompress, and just shooting around playing basketball be one of the ways I do that. I don't have the access to it right now because I don't really want to drive around looking for a park and just hooping around there. Like when I had in my backyard, that was my thing. Playing video games always like was been a big thing. Like I got my first console, like the original NES. Then I got the Nintendo 64, my PS2, PS3, PS4, my Switch. I've had like Game Boy Advance SP, and like 3DSs, and that's usually what I do. Is just if I'm having some free time, I would be gaming, either playing 2K, WWE, Mortal Kombat, a Dragon Ball Z game if something came out like 2 years ago when it came out, like that Spider-Man game for the PS4 is all I was doing religiously. There were times where I just needed to just chill out, and I would literally just swing around as Spider-Man, do random ass crimes. Wouldn't even do the missions. I was just like, this swinging shit is kind of fucking therapeutic. Let me just find some like thugs to beat up, like stuff like that is usually what I do. As I've gotten older now, because of I've been working so much, I just don't have the energy to like play video games or go and play basketball. Honestly, I'm binge watching one of my favorite shows on Hulu or Netflix or Peacock, or I'm watching the movie. 9 times out of 10, that's usually what I'm doing, is just sitting back and just binge watching one of my favorite shows. If it's not Lionel SVU, it's The Office. If it's not The Office, it's probably Breaking Bad. It's not that, maybe House MD, or just watching random episodes of like Dragon Ball Super or like Pokemon or like Yu Yu Hakusho, which was a fun anime that I was watching back in the day as Dragon Ball Z was coming up in Toonami. So usually that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Now, this isn't one of my questions, but I'm just curious. Do you have like a favorite anime besides Dragon Ball?
So I'm not a big anime head like that.
Okay.
If I can't pick a Dragon Ball, my favorite anime would be Yu Yu Hakusho because it has a lot of the aspects that I do appreciate in not only Dragon Ball but in other like media. Like it has like a bunch of mystery because it just starts off with him like being hit by a car and he's dead. Now he has to get his soul back because he wasn't supposed to die. Like they weren't expecting him to like make that gesture because he was kind of like this like punk like brat like Bart Simpson type kid,
Mm-hmm.
and no one expected him to do like a selfless gesture like that. And he had to go through this ordeal, get back into his body, but now he became like the spirit detective. So like he's out here hunting all these like spirits and all these demons, and then it transitions to like this like these tournaments. He's fighting all these bad guys, and it's very fucking cool. Like my favorite arc, if you ever go back and watch any of it, just because the fighting is fantastic. It's called the Dark Tournament. It's like probably the best tournament I've ever watched in anime. Granted, like I said, I don't watch a lot of anime, um, but that tournament's just so fucking cool. It has some of the action fighting from not only like Dragon Ball, but I don't know. It felt like it had like some elements of like Harry Potter and like some elements of like I don't know, like crime shows. Like I was watching Reaper like once upon a time when it was out. Like I don't know if you even remember Reaper being a show on the CW,
No.
but like I love stuff like that. Like so that was kind of like my thing. It kind of felt like not only like cartoons, like superhero cartoons, like back in the '90s, but it felt like a mixture of that with like Harry Potter and Dragon Ball. It just like had a little bit of everything. And I thought it was great. And the great thing about it is that it would have the episode, it would leave you on a cliffhanger, but the cliffhanger would be resolved like halfway through the next episode. So then they're telling a whole nother part of that story in the second part of that one episode.
Yeah.
And then, but like you get the cliffhanger. Like I don't know, it was just like a weird dynamic with it. Like I don't know, I just really loved it, and I think for me it would be Yu Yu Hakusho, and it's one of the shows I consistently go back and binge watch.
Okay. Now, I'm not like a huge anime person. There's one anime I watched. I think you might like it. It's called Death Parade.
Death Parade,
Yeah, I think it's on Hulu actually. I don't
is it?
don't quote me on that. I can't remember. Um very good. I've watched it in English and I've watched it in Japanese.
Right.
It's like video games, but or just games in general, like darts, billiards, stuff like that. One of them's
Mm-hmm.
like an arcade game, and it's these people and they're in like purgatory, and they have to like play these games. It's so cool to watch because then you get to
Interesting.
figure out why they're there, and there's like arbiters. It's so good. That's the one
It
thing
sounds
I would
very interesting.
recommend. It's like only like 11 episodes.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, like I'll probably go ahead and check that out then. There are some animes that I've been wanting to check out, like obviously Death Note is one of them.
Yeah.
Uh, Tokyo Ghoul is one that I've been meaning to check out, but I never fucking do. Um, I don't remember what it's called, but someone knows that I love basketball, and there's like this basketball anime out there.
Really?
Yeah, and I forget the name of it, but people keep recommending it to me, and I keep forgetting. But it's on my bucket list to go ahead and binge watch for sure. And I tried Naruto, um, but every
That's
time I get
a
like
lot.
that's a lot. I hear like it's a lot of commitment. It's for the same reason I don't jump into like Star Wars or Star Trek because I feel like I was never into it when it was out, and I feel like there's too much to catch up on.
Okay. So I just recently watched all the Star Wars movies for the first time this past year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I I was never a Star Wars kid.
Mm-hmm.
I've like explained it before. Like I had a friend who was obsessed with it. I fell off with her. I never wanted to watch them because she was so obsessed. It like
Right.
was all she could talk about, and I was just like, well, I don't want to deal with that ever. But I finally
Right.
caved because Rick got mad. It was his favorite series, and I never saw it, and he got mad, playfully mad, and I was just like, you know what,
Right.
fuck, I'll watch it. But then we got podcasts out of it, which were entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
So like I understand why like your hesitation about it. Like I haven't
Right.
watched any of the shows or anything, but the movies were incredible for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah. And I get what you mean. It's something that I think at some point in my life I will like dive into because my girl loves Star Wars.
There you
Like
go.
so, like she loves the Star Wars franchise. So that'd be something that I would do with her.
There you go.
So it's not something that I would do on my own. I'm not gonna actively search it. So that's one thing about me. It's like if it doesn't interest me enough to actively search it on my own, I need like someone needs to like sit there like with me and do it, or else I'm not gonna actively do it on my own. Funny enough, that's how I ended up watching the first two Twilight movies, is because we were just chilling and she decided let's watch Twilight after we finished watching Harry Potter, like all 8 films,
Nice.
and then the Rush Hour films. So it's like we need something else to watch. We're watching Twilight. I'm like, do we have to? I'm like, yes, we have to. I'm like, fine, but I liked it. I like the movies. I like the movies. They had their value. I will say that the fight scenes were pretty good. And again, Star Wars is something that I know a little bit of. Like, and it's I know who Darth Vader is. You know, I know who R2D2 is.
Yeah.
Like Luke Skywalker, Chewbacca. You know, like you know all those names. So it might be something that eventually I will dive into slowly. Eventually.
I'll say this and then I'll move on. If you're gonna do it, even if you just do it for all the lightsaber battles that happen, and
Yeah.
like the visuals, because I know or at least I think you're like a visual type of guy. That's why you
Yeah.
like a lot of the stuff you like Harry Potter, for example, and like
Love it.
just cinematography and visuals in Star Wars. They'll definitely get you hooked. So
Mm-hmm.
I say do it. I
Okay.
caved, Vince. Your turn.
I'm gonna cave. I'm gonna cave. I know I'm going to, but it's just like there has to be like the avenue and like the means for it. You know,
I got
it
you.
has to be like either having the films in my possession or just stumbling upon it in like a theater, like a red box or something.
Yeah.
At some point, I'll dive into it because it's not something I'm against. It's just something that's just like, man, it's a lot, and
It's 9 films.
sometimes I'm just lazy. Like I want to get into the Fast and Furious films, and I think I only watched the first 3. I got up to the first 3 because I love the film franchise, but then afterwards, like, man, they keep making them and keep making them, and I wasn't catching up with them. And funny enough, my girl loves the films because she's into cars as well. So it's like, so half of these things I'm gonna end up watching just to appease her and
Good.
just like watch with her.
Good. Smart lady. So we'll move on to if you could have a dinner and just like a sit down conversation with any 3 wrestlers, dead or alive, who are you picking and why? And again, you don't have to explain why if you don't want to.
Got it. Well, see, one of the benefits of being able to listen to the first 2 episodes of this is that I had time to think about my sit down dinner, and I narrowed it down to 4 people. The first 2 are locks. Is obviously, you know, this one, Eddie Guerrero would have to be on my table.
Mm-hmm.
John Cena is on my table, 100%.
Okay.
Those 2 are on there, and the third chair I was contemplating, you know, like Sasha Banks, but at the same time, I love Sasha, but me and her would just be like fangirling and fanboying about being in the fucking table with John Cena and Eddie Guerrero. Then I thought Rey Mysterio, but as I love Rey, but I think I settled on CM Punk.
Okay.
And the reason why I'll go down one by one as to why I'm choosing them on my table, but they all serve a similar purpose. Is not only want to choose my favorite wrestlers because all three of them are in my top 10 of favorite wrestlers of all time,
Mm-hmm.
but also because I wanted to be able to like pick their brains
Yeah.
and just get like life lessons as well, not just like inside the ring stuff, like outside the ring, like personal life stuff.
Yeah.
Eddie Guerrero, well, growing up when I was watching wrestling, it was in the Attitude Era. We didn't have too much representation. When I was watching Attitude Era, Ruthless Aggression Era came, and it was like Rey Mysterio. You had Eddie and Chavo, and that was the representation. You know, you had some cruiserweights that were also Mexican, but I wasn't watching WCW at the time, so I missed all of WCW. So
Yeah.
there was nothing there, and Essa Rios does not count. Okay, Essa Rios does not count as representation, and there was just something magnetic about Eddie that I just really loved. And when I saw Eddie, especially when he had like the short buzz cut when he was champion, he reminded me of my dad. And he looked very similar to my dad, like facial features wise, like facial hair wise. It's like that's my dad as a pro wrestler right there, like physical appearance. And I really just gravitated towards that. And my dad is very similar to Eddie in the sense where he'll make like the funniest jokes. Like he'll have you busting out laughing. Like he's such a character. And when Eddie was being like comedic on camera, it was like that's just like my dad. So like that's one thing that helped gravitate towards him. He was Mexican, so that was good to see some representation on there. When I was fully watching wrestling consistently on a weekly basis, he was the WWE champion at that time. He was the forefront because I didn't have cable at the time, so I was literally just network television, which was SmackDown, and I didn't know what channels this was on. Like up until this point, up until like 2003, all my exposure to wrestling was just renting out DVDs or VHSs at like not even Blockbuster, like just like some mom and pop video stores, and that would be our thing. Like, we started off like renting off like Disney movies, and then we transitioned into wrestling because my dad used to play wrestle with us, and then we had the wrestling video games. And then me and my sister would actually take turns. I'm like, okay, I rent out no WWF No Mercy, and then you get to rent out WrestleMania 2000, and now we get to watch two pay-per-views, and that's what we do. And then we watch them out of order. Sometimes we rent like a 97 pay-per-view, and then follow it up by watching a 92 pay-per-view, and then go back to like a 2001 pay-per-view. No timeline rhyme or reason, but Eddie was just always around,
Yeah.
and that's when he had his documentary, and like obviously his demons, and that kind of like just hit close to home. Just like, wow, that's crazy. Like it's just like he went through so much, and I would just kind of like want to talk to him because growing up, even in your like young adulthood, you learning everything as you go along, and he fucked up a lot, and just to be able to like talk to him and be like, how do you get through that? He found his faith. Like I'm not the most religious person, but I still have some faith, and I don't know. I'd want to just like talk to him and like, because there are days where I just have some down days. I'm like, how did you get through it?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's mostly that. And then I just feel like he'd be the life of the party if we were sitting at that table, and it'd be a dream. It'd be an honor and an absolute privilege to be able to sit across the table from that man, because he's been my idol growing up. He's been everything to me. Like you can't say one bad thing about it, girl, to me. Like that man has no flaws. Like he's not perfect, but he has no flaws. He's like the guy forever. I know what I've said about Sheamus, but he's my go. Like Eddie Guerrero will always be my go. Then going with Cena, it's again during that Ruthless Aggression time. John Cena was the other guy that I thought was really fucking cool because I was getting into like hip hop and like rap, and John Cena was doing the Thugonomics rapper gimmick, and it was just so fucking cool. He was out here like throwing nuts in people's faces, like he's throwing like bags of like pecans or whatever, like cashews and and it was so cool. He had like the jerseys, and I love basketball, so like he come out with like basketball jerseys, like he make references like that. He was pumping the sneakers, the jean shorts, like that was kind of like my style around that time, and I just really gravitated towards that. I didn't have much cable, but I would watch BET a lot, and I would watch Mundos, which is kind of like like the Latino version of like MTV when it
Mm-hmm.
was just music videos. And that was just like my genre. And my favorite rapper of all time is Eminem. And there's a white rapper gimmicked wrestler in WWE, and it was just so fucking cool. He came out with spinner titles. Spinners were so cool back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
He became WWE champion, and just he was just a total badass, and I just freaking loved him. And I was even a big supporter of that man up until 2011 when he unjustifiably beat Rey Mysterio for the WWE title in under an hour. Ever since then, I turned on him, and obviously the whole Punk Revolution, like helped
Yeah.
like me like turn on Cena. But I loved Cena. I thought he was like the coolest guy ever. And even now, when he came back and he was doing the U.S. Open Challenge, the shit he was doing on SmackDown, putting on banger of a match, like with AJ Styles, with Kevin Owens, showing that he can do the indie style, not just the WWE style. And then just like watching him on Total Divas, Total Bellas, he just sounds like he's just a very wise man and just like a very smart businessman. And again, similar to Eddie Guerrero, just get some life advice and be able to pick his brain.
Mm-hmm.
And again, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. He's in my top four. He's on my Mount Rushmore along with Eddie. And then going with Punk for like a similar reason. He's a Chicago guy. Like when I was watching wrestling, as much as I loved Eddie Guerrero, like I'm proud of being a Chicagoan, but I wasn't seeing anyone from Chicago. I'd see, oh, everyone's from New York, everyone's from California, they're from Texas, they're from Canada, and it's just like, where are all the Chicago people at? You know, like, does Chicago not happen here? Like, does wrestling not happen here in Chicago or something? Like, what's going on? And then, sure enough, like 2007, 2009, whenever he showed up in ECW, I wasn't a fan of him then. He won the Money in the Bank ladder match. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. He won the Money in the Bank ladder match. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool, but I didn't really care too much about him. It wasn't until he cashed in on Jeff Hardy, turned heel, and did the Straight Edge Society savior gimmick. Holy shit. You thought I was blasphemous with my Sheamus stand? I lived the fucking gimmick, Katie. I lived the fucking gimmick
You did.
because back in high school I would drink and I would smoke and I would sneak that into class or I would cut class to go smoke. And I actually failed a year my junior year and I had to stay back and I could have just finished like the January after I was supposed to graduate, but I decided to stay the entire semester, the entire school year to be able to walk on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I was just out there just being influenced by other people. I was out there like smoking and drinking, and I was doing it because everybody else was doing it, not necessarily because I wanted to do it. And that was the people I was surrounding myself with. And and then like that just all kind of clicked. And I remembered everything what happened with Eddie, you know, his demons and stuff like that. I don't know. I figured like that's what people go through, you know, like everyone's gonna go through their rough patch. And um I don't exactly remember what triggered it, but I stopped drinking and I stopped smoking. And keep in mind, I was doing this as like a teenager. I was like 15, 16, 14 doing this shit. And yeah, I just like slowly stopped doing it, stopped hanging out with those people that I was hanging out with, carrying bad company,
Mm-hmm.
and just started hanging out with some of my best friends. Now it's just playing basketball. Playing basketball got me out of those bad habits. I would go home, go to the parks with my friends, play basketball, play 2K, play my PS3 at that time, whatever. Like that's all we were doing. We'd have game nights. My house would be the kick it spot for everybody because I had the basketball hoop. I had like 3 game systems, and my mom was always hooking it up with the Mexican snacks, you know. So it was a fun place to be, and that's when CM Punk did the whole Straight Edge Society stuff. I'm like, oh, that's just so fucking cool. He's actually having people shave their heads. Like I fully fell into it, and he was from Chicago, and I'm like, no, fuck it. And then my sister, one of her favorite wrestlers was Jeff Hardy, so I just kind of like stuck it to her by saying like, oh, he got him out of WWE, and long and behold, I slowly became straight edge, not because of what Punk did on TV, but because I realized with the company I was no longer around that this isn't who I am. I was just doing it because everybody else is doing it. I felt like I had to do it to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that that's not who I am. I'm not a drinker. And that's when I discovered straight edge through CM Punk. And I'm like, okay, well, that's something I can associate myself. That's something I can like express myself as, because like I didn't know what I was, like some people are like, oh, I'm a drinker, I'm a skateboarder, like I'm an athlete type of thing. I'm like, I'm straight edge. And my senior year of high school, that's basically who I was. And I carried that for like 10 plus years. And up until recently, I started drinking again, but it's more casual. And that's one of the reasons why I want to point there to just kind of like, he helped a good part of my life. Like, he helped, like, there was some representation as well, being from Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
just like Eddie being Mexican as well. And just seeing the guy from Chicago be able to make it in WWE just kind of gives you a little bit of perspective, a little bit of hope. I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. And that's basically why I would have all those three people on the table with me, pick their brains and become a better person, because and be the best version of myself that I can be, because they've went through their struggles. They went through their trials and tribulations. John Cena lived in his car for like a year, I think, like before he made it. Like I think while he was a bodybuilder, if I remember that correctly. And it's just mostly that. Like three of my favorite wrestlers of all time, through different times in my fandom, they were my favorite wrestler, period. And outside of that, I feel like they have a lot of offer and like advice and wisdom to bestow upon me. And if I'm given the opportunity to sit down with any people, I'm going to take advantage fully of that opportunity and sit down with those three guys. I think that'd be the best. And then also too, you have Eddie Guerrero, John Cena, and CM Punk. I feel like that's gonna be a lively conversation
Mm-hmm.
all dinner long, all
For
dinner long.
sure. For fucking sure. That might be the most like detailed answer to this so far.
Really.
Yeah. I mean, like some of them have like gone into a little bit of detail, but you gave details for like all three, like
Yeah,
extensive details, and you talked about it a few times, like having low points, like how all three of them have helped you through something. I say it every time because I always have it on there. Also, random. I feel like I sound like I'm sick now, so that's something I'm gonna listen to the entire time. Um,
I think you sound fine, Kitty.
it's a subconscious thing, but um, backtracking. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline.
Yes.
1-800-273-TALK, which is 288-8255. And then the crisis text line, you text hello 741-741. I always have them on the screen. They're in the description of the video and the audio. Because,
And I love that you do that, by the way.
I mean, I was a social work major in college. Mental health is something I've always been a huge advocate for,
Mm-hmm.
regardless. Everyone struggles in some way, shape, or form. Some people are better at hiding it than others. But if it
Yeah.
ever gets bad, you can talk to people. There are ways to
Mm-hmm.
help. Just talk.
Yeah. No, I'm a big advocate for that as well. Like like I said, I've gone through my moments, my lowest of lows.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm sure we've all gone through it, but like one of my lowest points was on my birthday. I don't remember what year it was, but it was on my actual birthday, and I just like broke down. Like I was mentally out of it. Like I think we were still like it was still in like the house that my parents owned at that time, and I don't know what it was about that day, but it broke me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just like in pieces, and I literally just went down to the basement by myself and just kind of like sat in a room and just sat in the room and just like that's how I spent most of my birthday, like just secluded. And I did that to myself, and it's just like I didn't look for help, and like I had all the help that I could have had upstairs, but it's hard. It really is hard, and it takes you a minute to want to make that effort to reach, because oftentimes you don't want to reach out because you're like, no one's gonna care, no one wants
Yep.
to help, no one wants to listen. Like, who am I? But it's like you can't think that way. You like as hard as it is, you got to try to make an effort and try to reach out, because there are people there for you. There are not only willing to help but want to help. So
Exactly.
I love that you do that, by the way. Like the minute I saw that the first time, like that's fantastic. Like that's amazing. That's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, thank you, by the way, for like saying that you didn't have to like.
It just came out. I'm sorry, like it came out
When you
like
listen to Justin's, he says something about how I get that out of people, and I always somehow, no matter what the conversation's about, every episode I've talked about the mental health thing. So
mm-hmm.
it every episode so far, because I think it's
Yeah.
important to just talk about, even if it's a slight thing. So
Yeah, because like it may seem like it's significant, but it's something that you should always try to address. Like it doesn't have to be something where it's like you're suicidal or you're constantly depressed. It could just be like dealing with like anxiety or something. Just like small little things, like your own insecurities. Like it's everyone has this.
mm-hmm.
And I'm just really glad that there's a little bit more of an open forum to address these issues
Mm-hmm.
because God knows it would have been better like to have this like years ago.
Oh,
Like
for sure.
even while I was growing up, I feel like I wish I had more like resources that I do now, or
Mm-hmm.
just at least knew about these resources.
Exactly. Now, I mean, this is kind of a segue into it. Do you have any advice to anyone who's listening, whether that's about podcasting, life,
Mm-hmm.
any type of advice you want to give to the people listening or watching? Go ahead.
Um, in terms of podcasting, if it's something that you want to go ahead and do, um, just make sure it's something that you're passionate and love. Because that's what you should be doing. This is for the passion of it. Because 9 times out of 10, as unfortunate as it may be, we don't make money off of it. We're not making careers out of it. It does happen. It can happen.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen tomorrow, but just know that you have to love what you're doing. Don't do it to get big, get money. Just do it for the fun of it. If you feel like you have something you want to share and input, I know so many fantastic people that do this, and just about anyone can do it. You literally just need like a laptop, a decent mic, and you're pretty much good to go. It's pretty straightforward. Just like let your creativity do it. If you feel like you want to do it, by all means do it. Like I did YouTube and for a good hot minute there because that was my avenue into podcasting because I knew I wanted to do something. I just didn't know what it was. And I was
Mm-hmm.
doing like pay-per-view predictions and I was doing like other prediction videos and that was kind of my thing. Um and that was just me like just dabbling, just trying. Like so I guess like whether it's podcasting or any other avenue you want to explore or just in life in general, it's just like don't be afraid to take that leap and don't be afraid to take that chance because worst case scenario that happens is you fall, you fail, but that does like maybe you don't succeed in that particular avenue, but you took that step, you learned and you get back up.
Mm-hmm.
I use this quote a lot and that's only because I love the Dark Knight films, but it's like the quote is like, why do we fall down, Bruce? So we learn to pick ourselves back up. And then that's the same thing. That's kind of like the advice I would give people. It's like go for it. I kind of wish I was doing this whole podcasting thing sooner. And even with life, there are some decisions that I'm a big what if kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually linger and ponder about what ifs, and I hate doing that. So what I've tried to do now in the later stages of my 20s in my life is try to not have so many what ifs, to like know that you took some chances whether you succeeded or not. And even in jobs, if you feel like this is a job you really want to go for it. Like like or even like if you want to ask out a girl or ask out a guy that you really really like, go for it. Worst thing that can happen is say no. And it's unfortunately I've had in the no set my way a few too many times, and it's discouraging. But you never know when you finally get that yes or you finally get that success. Just one thing can make it feel all worth it. And if I didn't take that random chance replying to that random tweet by Sebastian, I wouldn't have been picked up by Smackdraw. I wouldn't have learned how to podcast. I wouldn't have been able to like connect and network with so many people. I wouldn't have been on Smacking the Raw. I wouldn't have created Straight Talk, and I wouldn't be friends with so many fantastic people that I've met through podcasting. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the advice I'd give anyone that's listening today or wants to do anything in podcasting or other media. It's like, go for it. Like, it's not gonna be perfect the first time out. Like, you're probably gonna hate your stuff going when you get going initially, but you're gonna get better. Like, whether you're an athlete, you're a content creator, or just like starting anything in general, like you're gonna have some growing pains, and just like be aware of them and just keep putting best foot forward. And sometimes you take a step back to take two steps forward, or take two steps back to get one step forward, but it's all worth it. That's kind of like the advice I would give someone.
That's great advice. I mean, you brought up the whole just ask them out, and you said you've gotten no. Dude, same. It's just the way of life.
Dude, like,
It's
and honestly, it's easier it's easier said than done, because I know now I have like Pornhub Poppy and Daddy Delgado and all this other stuff. But man, I'm not like the most. I feel like I've never been like the most charming or most charismatic or even like best looking or most attractive looking guy out there. Like, I was so awkward as a kid, like the most awkward shy kid there ever was. And it wasn't until I started working in bars as like a busser slash barback that I had to interact with customers, and then working at GameStop and other like customer service jobs where I had to like get better talking to people.
mm-hmm.
Like, now I tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm more of an introvert and stuff like that. One of my best friends, Austin, love that man. He's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. You're not an introvert. You're a fucking extrovert. You're like the most chatty person I fucking know. You're like so outgoing. And it's like, yeah, but it's like once I get comfortable, and
Yep.
it's like it's something that does happen, and it took time to happen. I don't know, man. If you go back and look at like young Vince, like fetus Vince or whatever the term may be, but like, man, is it night and day the difference. You want to know how bad it was? Up until I think the third grade, I had a bowl cut in middle
Oh
school and elementary
no.
school. Yes, because uh, mom, so I never was taken to like a barber or anything. They would just kind of like let my hair grow. Like, they would just kind of like cut it short, similar to like how I have it now. But like my mom just like kept letting it grow out and letting it grow out. And one of her best friends, she just like, we gotta give him a haircut. And like my mom, for whatever reason, loves that look on kids, or just like loves that look in general. I don't know why. Okay, mom, sure. Maybe she was a fan of Trunks from Dragon Ball Z, just like Matt Ritter or whoever. But yeah, like I think like her friend just like put a bowl on me the first time, and then just cut around, and then just like shaved like underneath. And then that was my look. I would go to barbers like or whatever, like hairstylists, and that's what I was doing. And it wasn't until my cousin from Mexico that came over and he got a haircut. I'm like, Mom, I want to cut my hair like Carlos has his hair. I don't want to do this anymore. And then just one random day, like in the fourth grade, I showed up with like this stereotypical like Mexican hair with like the gel and like the spiky like hair and shit. So that was my look afterwards and shit. But
That's so funny. Oh man. Oh, little Vince with a bowl cut. That's cute.
hey, if there's a picture out there of me with like a super squirter like water gun, and like and jorts like John Cena, and like I think like a Boston Red Sox type like t-shirt jersey, and I'm just like holding this gun like a total fucking badass with a fucking bowl cut.
Oh, it's terrible.
like like and you wonder why I struck out with girls up until that point. And even still, like I still was so awkward. I was still so fucking shy. Like, man, it took me until high school to like really break out of my shell. And even then, I was still pretty shy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I came a long way, and that again goes back to the advice. It's like, just go out for it. Go out for it. Do it. You never know.
Exactly.
You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised at the things you can accomplish if you actually try it, because you never know. Um,
Yeah.
like Michael Jordan once said, I think if I'm quoting him correctly, You miss 100% of the shot that you don't take.
Wasn't that? Wait a minute.
Yeah, I believe that's Michael Jordan.
Wasn't it Wayne Gretzky?
I know. I feel like Jordan said it too.
Well, because doesn't Michael Scott in The Office like quote it? And I'm pretty sure he says Wayne Gretzky. Listen, I'm not a big fan of The Office, but I feel like I've seen that before.
I think that's part of the joke that he said Wayne Gretzky, but it was supposed to be Michael Jordan.
I legitimately don't know.
I'll Google it up like while we transition to the next topic.
Yeah, Google it. Let me know. I think Vince
Just
froze.
like you gotta take a shot. You gotta take a shot. What?
You froze for a second.
Oh, okay. Maybe because I mean,
Do you want me to look it up?
No. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. I guess it was Wayne Gretzky.
See, I know things. I'm smart.
It could have been Michael Jordan too. Like he might have said it too. He might have said it too.
Oh my god. Anyways, you've talked a lot about things that have happened in your life. Now you are only 29. You still got a long life to live. But if you could write an autobiography about your life, what would be the title and why? Oof.
So, I had one title in mind, which I felt like was very appropriate, but wasn't sure if I wanted to dive too much into it. And then I thought about another title. So I have two.
Okay.
So I'll do the more uplifting one, like the less gloomy one, I guess. Oh. And it would be Animo, which it's kind of hard to translate fully in English, but it's a word that's reassurance, like confidence, like you can do this, like type of thing. I remember I was working. It was like my first real job that I was able to like hold down. And whenever I had struggled, like one of my coworkers would be like, Animo, and be like, come on, like just like you got this, like let's do this type of shit. And I'd never heard about it. I wasn't sure what it was, and I went back and asked my mom, and she just kind of like explained it to me, saying like, oh, it just means like you can do it, like come on, like just an encouraging phrase and word. And that's kind of fitting for my life because there has been times where it seems like things seem very gloomy and just seem like they're at their worst, and you just need someone to be like, hey, cheer up, animo, you can do this, things will be okay, type of thing. And sometimes I try to do that. Just when like things seem tough, and just like, animo, you can do this. And I don't know if you know this or not, but Rey Phoenix actually says that. So like Penta's thing is cero miedo, and then Phoenix does animo.
Really?
Yes.
See,
yes.
You can never hear them on TV, and B, when I've seen them live twice, and but I'm never like able to actually hear because everyone always just does cero miedo kind of shit. Like, so I'm never able to hear what he actually says. See, look at that. You learn something new every day.
Yeah. And, I've been spoiled because the Lucha Bros have come to wrestle here in Chicago a lot.
Yeah.
There's a wrestling promotion here called AAW, not to be confused with AEW, but they wrestled there a lot. They've actually had matches with Pride and Powerful over there, formerly LAX. And they would do other indie shows like Warrior Wrestling is a show here in Chicago Heights. It's not in the city, but it's still in Illinois, still kind of part of Chicago. It's like on the border, outskirts of Chicago. And I've just gotten the chance to see them. They were in Impact Wrestling. So again, very, very fucking blessed. I've actually been able to meet them a few times, and they're like the most wholesome souls there ever have been. Awesome. And that's because I knew what there was. So I knew what animo was. And then I was like, oh, he says animo. That's so fucking cool. Because everybody's so focused on the cero miedo, they always forget they don't pay attention to the animo type when Phoenix says it. So that's what I would. But if I want to really dive more deep and just like unpack me, the original title that I was thinking was Ni de aquí, ni de allá, which is it was the title of a song by this Mexican rapper named JP, and it's loosely translated from it gets loosely translated to English saying not from here, not from there.
Mm.
And the reason why I wasn't sure about it because obviously I'm Mexican. I'm a child of immigrants. I'm an immigrant myself. I was brought over here when I was like 1 and 11 months. I had my second birthday here. I know my whole life being here in Chicago, and but I'm still like Mexican. So growing up an immigrant, you don't really feel like you have an actual home, like at least with me, and then that kind of like leads into like some of my low points, like some down days. It's um like even like simple things like being able to like travel like across the country, like you can't really fucking do, like sometimes you're like over your head, like like you're worried and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um because like this is technically my home, but technically it's not. Technically my home is Mexico. That's my homeland. That's where I was born, but I know nothing of that place. I have no memory of it. But then here sometimes intentionally or unintentionally, or just like the environment, the circumstances, sometimes it just didn't feel like home growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's different. Obviously now this is my home. If someone asks me, I tell them I'm from Chicago and I'm from Mexico.
Fitz froze again. Oh no. Vince?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know what happened there. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What was the last thing you heard?
Um, you you felt that more when you were growing up, but now you're more just like okay with it. I guess is like loosely translating from what you were saying.
Yeah. So that's exactly it. And like I said, like growing up, I felt like if it was an autobiography of myself, it would be that, because there were times where I just felt like a fish out of water. I
Yeah.
felt like this was my home, but people telling me it's not my home. People telling me that's my home, but I don't know nothing about that place. Like as much as I'm like very proud of where I am and who I am and my heritage, it felt like I didn't have like an actual home or an actual
Yeah.
place to belong, and that's why I felt like that title fit. But the more and more I think about it, like it can fit, but I like Animo a little bit too. So like they both fit. So like I'm giving you two answers technically here.
That's okay.
I'm giving you two answers because I think they're both apropos. Um, but yeah, that's just kind of like the story of Vince, I guess. Like if you really just like unpack him and like figure out what this man went through growing up, like bowl cut, like fetus Vince, what like baby Vince went grow up
Well, baby
dealing
Vince
with,
with his bowl cut.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think those are two good titles because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that
Yeah.
and can relate to the feeling of like this being your home, but not being your home. Other somewhere else supposed to be your home, but not feeling like your home.
Yeah.
And I feel like if a lot of people could see that and just like relate. I'm like, hey, I feel like that too. So it's not just me.
Yeah.
And then also with like the Animo title, like sometimes you just need that encouraging word, that encouraging push that like you can do this, like you got this. And I think both titles are apropos. I think they're both like fitting.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just pick one. So I just went, it gave you both.
That's okay. I'll take both. That's fine. So we're almost done. Now, like I said, we're filming this October, technically now, the 18th.
Yeah.
Um, this is gonna come out November 15th. So,
Mm-hmm.
any future plans for the next month or two, for either Smacking It Raw or Straight Talk or anything else you're gonna be a part of,
Mm-hmm.
and you would like to let the people know, go ahead.
Okay. Well, obviously, Smacking the Rod, you can find us every week on Pornhub, YouTube,
Yeah.
Spotify, everywhere. We continually doing that. I've taken on the venture of hosting my own sub show from the Smackdraw family called Spitter Swallow. If you don't watch the show, first off, what is wrong with you? You should be watching the number one wrestling podcast on Pornhub. How dare you? Um, but our format system in which we grade things is Spitter Swallow, whether we like them or. And I decided to make that into its own show. So we did Extreme Rules Spitter Swallow, which you were on the debut episode on with Wreak Havoc. I finished recording the WWE Draft Spitter Swallow with Justin from Get Show and Benji Calavera. I'm having some tech issues getting the video up, but once I get that resolved, obviously get it going. Just keep an eye out for that. That's going to be like a monthly podcast I want to do. It's like a reaction podcast, just something short form to help get our YouTube numbers up.
Yeah.
With Straight Talk, honestly, I'm pretty much like Wreak Havoc. Like when I get the chance to drop something, I drop something. I want to be more consistent, but I just obviously I can't because I have a lot of stuff on my plate.
Yeah.
But in terms of stuff that I have going forward is a little spoiler, but we might have a follow up to that WWE draft we just recently did. Have some Survivor Series fun. We'll talk about that some more.
We'll talk.
The NBA season should be like in its infancy when this drops, so I will be having more NBA podcasts going up. I hopefully would have an Eastern Conference and Western Conference like predictions / tier ranking video with a bunch of like different people. And stay tuned, you never know when I might just do a random podcast with Justin from Get Show and just like straight Get Show. You know, we make like a mixture or something, but it usually that like just keep on tap with my social media at SCS Vincent. I should be posting some fun stuff.
Yeah. Easy and love.
Yeah.
Now, I have asked you so many questions, so many things. You've given me plenty of answers. Do you have any questions for me? Podcast, personal, anything you want to know?
Well, I do have a few questions. Some are a little bit more fun. Some are a little bit more like I want to like they would be asking your own episode of Inside the Mind of, you know, Kitty Kinsey. So first off, when we were talking about earlier, it's like I know you're into Harry Potter as well.
Yes.
What is your house?
I'm a Hufflepuff.
Same, me too. Everybody wants to be Gryffindor or Slytherin so bad.
Gryffindor. Slytherins are cool. My best friend's a Slytherin, and I love her to pieces. So that proves like Slytherins and Hufflepuffs can actually be best friends, even though they're completely different.
Right.
No, Hufflepuffs are the best. Shout out.
Yeah, I don't see too many Ravenclaw out there. So like,
Ravenclaws. We don't fuck with Ravenclaws.
Yeah.
Sorry if you're a Ravenclaw, but it's rough.
yeah, no, but that's what I was gonna ask because I when I find out that someone likes Harry Potter, I'm like, what's your house?
Yeah.
Because I know you were talking. I froze again.
No, I can still hear. I can still hear you.
Okay.
You were just your picture was kind of frozen for a second.
Okay. Maybe it was all the slander towards Ravenclaw.
It might have been, honestly.
Might have been. Maybe my laptop's Ravenclaw and I just don't know about it.
Yeah, your Mac is a Ravenclaw. It all makes sense.
Yeah, it all makes sense why I have all the text issues now.
All makes sense.
That darn Ravenclaw Mac. But yeah, I usually like to ask any fellow Harry Potter fans like what house it pertains to. I think like that's my go-to question.
Yeah.
I guess like the other question, because you asked me this and I've always wondered this, is how did you get involved with Smackdraw? Because
now you froze. Wait, are you back? I think you're back.
Okay,
so you asked me how I got involved with Smackdraw.
Yes, that was my question.
Okay. I feel like somebody else asked me this too. But I'll answer again because I've said it multiple times actually. Mine was also a tweet.
Really?
I tweeted like, you know, middle of the pandemic. I was bored. I had nothing else to do. I love wrestling, obviously. Who would have thought? And I tweeted, I was like, oh, like, what your girl got to do to get on a wrestling podcast? Steven from Wrestling News World responded and was like, well, like, DM me. And I was like, what the fuck? Okay. Like, dude asked you to DM him on Twitter. Little sketch, especially if you're a girl.
Right. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
did it. I said, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Come to find out, he said he had a friend who had a show and they were looking for a host. I think he also said producer at the time, but I ignored that part. For AEW, and that was like
Mm-hmm.
the big thing because at that point I'd already been doing an AEW show. I was like, I loved the Young Bucks and I watched BTE and all that kind of stuff. So like, I watched their journey to AEW. I said sure. So he got me in touch with Kyle. I had a Zoom interview thing on like a Friday. He asked me if I wanted to be on, and I said sure. And then that following Monday was my first episode of Smackdraw.
Interesting, because um, all I know, because I was obviously still working with Smackdraw at the time.
Yeah.
Rob Roode, who was running and producing AEW, he had to bow out because of work and just dad responsibilities,
Yeah.
and that left Kyle having to not only do Raw, SmackDown, but now AEW. And all I was doing at that time was NXT. Sometimes I would give him a hand and sometimes do Raw or SmackDown,
Mm-hmm.
but he needed someone, and I just don't remember how he got you. You know, he somehow lucked into like a fantastic pickup, and all I know is that I think it was like a connection through Wrestling News World. So I always just assumed that you just worked with Wrestling News World or something.
Nope.
That's funny. That's
Literally
funny.
a
It was just
tweet.
like a random tweet. We both got our start the same way. That's hilarious.
Can
How
you believe?
ironic.
That's awesome.
That's funny. That's funny. But I mean, I have more questions, but I want to save those. Like, I want to save those in case, because I feel like those might be answered in your own episode of Inside the Mind of, because I think that's something that the people want to see. Well, you know what? I guess that's my final question. Is like, will at some point will there be an Inside the Mind of Katie Kinsey, baby?
I I don't know.
I feel like the people would want it. The
If
question is, how would you go about it?
that's something to think about. I mean, who do I have be me like in this?
Mm-hmm.
I think Justin calls me the Katie Walters in his episode, which that man made me crack up the entire time.
Oh, I can't wait to listen to that episode.
It's a fun one. It's funny. Um, so I don't know who I would pick to be the me in that situation, like the
Mm-hmm.
host, if you will, because the questions are the same for every person. It's just I happen
Mm-hmm.
to hear something, take it, run with it, and then move on,
Yeah.
which people can do anyways. I mean, hell, we all do wrestling podcasts and we know how to branch off. You start talking about one thing, leads to a rant about another. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's what we do. I do it all the time. So, I don't know who I would have be me in that
Mm-hmm.
situation. If the people want it, I'll make you this deal. If the people want it, and I can figure out who I want to ask me these questions, I will do it.
Sounds like a deal. I will go ahead and put my head into the bunch of I should not do it because I don't think I should. I
You
might
said I don't fucking want this responsibility. No, thank you.
no,
No
no,
gracias.
no,
No gracias.
no. Fuck anime on this one. like,
You say get the
like,
fuck out of here.
yeah, no, no. I don't want that because, I think you do a fantastic job, and
Thank you.
I don't feel like I'd be able to like fulfill the role that you fulfill. And I want to make sure that when we dive into the inside the mind of Katie Kinsey, make sure we're really taking a good deep like insights and peel back the curtain how we properly should.
Well, I'll ask you this. Based off of our friend group, because I want it to be someone I'm like friends with, because
Mm-hmm.
it's someone I'm comfortable with. Who do you want to see be the Katie Walters, if you will?
Funny enough, as we were talking about this, I actually been thinking about it, and I don't think one person can do it. I
Really?
think I don't think one person can do it. So if I had to have a vote, I feel like you should have like a panel, like similar to like your whole idea of like your like sit down dinner with like three other wrestlers. I feel like you need three hosts to reel you in and like really get like that the most out of that podcast because they bring different dynamics because you're like a swift army knife. You know what you want this episode to be, what you want out of it. And I feel like there's no one that I know they'll be able to accomplish everything that you want to accomplish in that episode. I feel like certain people can do certain aspects of it, but not everything fully. So I would say, for one, your advocate Wreak Havoc would have to be one of the panel people, and Mr. Matt Ritter himself. I feel like both you and I have a strong friendship relationship, both like outside of the podcasting, but inside the podcasting world as well with him. I feel like he does a fantastic job of like running and righting the ship on Smackdraw as much as I may try to derail it with my blasphemous slander. And then also, I feel like Savannah. I feel like Savannah should have a seat on the table, given that she's your co-host on the ShElite Showcase, and I feel like would be one of the one person that would be able to get some questions out of you, and get some answers. So I think that's what it should be, kind of like those media scrums type setting, where like they each have like their direction where they want to go and just ask their questions. So I guess it would be more of a Q&A inside the mind of Katie Kinsey. That's how I picture that episode going.
Okay. Listen, like I said, if the people want it, I'll make it happen. I'll say next year because like how I'm filming these, I have basically until December already done, or will have done. So I'll say next year, or maybe it'll be a little Christmas treat to the people. Who knows?
Sounds fantastic.
But only if
at least not be that to everybody. I think the people will. I think you underestimate how much people look forward to your content.
I do. That's one of my downfalls. I've talked about it before. I undersell myself.
Same here. Honestly, I totally get it. That's why when you're talking to me about like the stuff that I do with Smackdraw and even Smackdraw, it's like maybe I'm a little self-deprecating in that aspect because I'm very hard on myself. I feel like I'm my own worst and harshest critic. And I hate going back and watching my stuff. I always nitpick. I always think something's terrible. So that's just kind of like where I'm at with that whole situation. But I get it. But that's something that the people really do want. And again, like little known fact, you may or may not know this, but once I left Smackdraw, you were the reason I was still watching the program. I was like, what is Katie Kinsey doing over there on Smackdraw?
Formerly known as Katie.
Let's not have any copyright strikes on here.
We don't want
no cease and desist sent this way.
It will not happen, I swear.
For real. But yeah. The people want it, Katie. The people want it.
Listen, you know what? I'll do you one better. After we end this, so Monday, tomorrow, I'll ask around. I'll ask the people. I'll see what they want.
You can make it like a special anniversary episode or like a celebration episode.
I could.
Like, let's say you reach like episode 50, episode 25, or like whatever milestone you want to hit, because you will hit that milestone at some point. Maybe you could save it for that, as long as we get it.
So you want an inside the mind of Katie Kinsey, baby?
Yes.
All right.
Battle.
All right. We'll see. It's more likely gonna happen. Damn you, Fins.
Now that I put it out there, it's gonna happen.
Oh yeah, you put it in the universe, and knowing our friends, it's gonna happen.
They're gonna make it happen.
They are. I'm gonna get ambushed just one day. They're just gonna be like, "Ayo, what are you doing?" I'll be like, "Nothing." Good. Your turn. Fuck.
And it's gonna be Matt. And it's gonna be Matt that like ambushes you, and then there's Wreak Havoc and everybody else. Like it might just be the whole cafeteria, like just like having Q&As with you. So we'll see.
Benji's not allowed to ask me any questions.
Benji's not allowed on
if
the.
Benji's there, he's not allowed to ask me anything.
I don't even think Benji's allowed on the show just yet.
No, he's got to work his way. He's got to get back into my good graces.
Yeah, that whole Pittsburgh situation really like took a
Still
damper
makes
on
me
things.
mad because I still don't have an answer.
That's the point.
If the man gives me an answer, he might be allowed on my show.
That's the whole point. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Like he did it to get a rise out of you. You know that he has no rhyme or reason as to why he said it other
He's
than
an
to get a rise
ass.
out of you.
He's an ass.
He's Benji. That's what he is.
Do you have any other questions for me?
No, I think we have a pretty good basis of questions that I want to ask.
Okay.
That's yeah. I think I got them out of the way.
All right. I was gonna say you're allowed to ask me however many you wanted.
Well, true, but if I ask too many questions, that leaves less questions for others to answer, and also to want to save that for the inside the mind of Katie Kinsey.
You're terrible.
So I may have some in the bank waiting to like release once that episode drops.
No, it's terrifying, but. All right, Vince. Before we end it, tell the people where they can find you. Of course, I will have descriptions or links to all your stuff in the descriptions. But tell the people where they can find you.
I think the easiest way to find me, I've worked very hard to have this continuity. Just search up at SC Vince, Twitter, Instagram. You can find me there. Honestly, it's funny enough. I actually did it just for shits and giggles. I googled at SC Vince and I show up. My work on Smackdraw shows up. My work on Straight Talk has happened, and my social media accounts show up. So you can search me up if you want to follow me. That's probably the best way to keep track with all the stuff I post or all the projects I'm working on. If you want actual links to all the media, it is Linktree/SCS Vince. It'll give you the link to my Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I think I have Stitcher, YouTube, and it also does have my social medias for Instagram and Twitter as well. So go ahead and follow that, and go follow the Smackdraw podcast Instagram account. That's at Smackdraw Pod. I'm the one that runs it. Matt runs the Twitter, but we're trying to get the numbers up there. So go ahead and do that, and subscribe to youtube.com/creationworld or /the creation world, because we're trying to get the subs up there too. So we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah. And like I said, that'll be in the description on the video and the audio. And of course, for me, because I always have to just plug myself, I guess, Katie Raskin 13. That's where you can find me on Twitter. You can find the link tree in my bio. That'll take you to all things ShElite Showcase, YouTube, Twitch, the Instagram, Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Fuck Apple Podcasts, because I still can't figure it out. I might have to figure it out by the time this comes out.
Hopefully.
It's been hoops and terrible.
I honestly have no idea how I got Apple Podcasts. I have zero idea how I got on there.
I've tried. I went through Anchor. It just refuses to work. I'm giving up on it for the time being. But we're on other platforms.
Yes.
So
everyone has Spotify.
Exactly. Everyone has Spotify. Google it, YouTube it, whatever. Subscribe, follow, do all the things. At least subscribe. I'm trying to get a custom URL so I can just be like youtube.com/ShElite Showcase.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Don't worry, Katie. I'll go ahead and get like 150 burner accounts and make sure you get those subs.
Yeah, all your burner accounts that you used to vote for yourself in the draft. Yeah.
I did not. No. Don't put that message there.
That was Benji. My apologies.
No. Benji maybe had like 2 burner accounts, but that's about it.
230. Who's to decide?
No. I think you're a little biased there, Katie, because you barely lost that. You were like right in the thick of things. You had the lead at one point.
I don't want to talk about it. Thank you so much, Vince, for joining me on Inside the Mind of.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you for having me. It was a blast, and I had fun. I'm glad to do it. And the minute you dropped these Inside the Mind ofs, I was like, man, if she asked me, I'm on it. I have to do it. So just, again, thank you for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who has listened or watched If you watched, you got to see Vince freeze a few times, so enjoy that. But until next time, we'll see you later. Bye bye.